this computer, and then I will go live on Facebook. Oh, how was your day?
Oh my gosh, so hectic. I was just thinking, okay, I know I have this evening, so I wanted to get into a good mental space for it, but
Yes.
work is just mental.
So you can't work from home?
I can, but we sent a lot of our high-risk people and those who actually can't physically come to the office home first. So the rest of us are still soldiering on in the office. How's my battery life? I better check that. Okay. Oh, all right, let's do this.
Are you nervous?
I'm nervous. Are you nervous? No, you're probably used to this.
I'm excited. I'm excited to do this. I want to pick your brains.
Oh gosh. You had a good day?
Yeah, I was working from home. So where did you grow up?
Wait, are you lagging or is it just me?
And it's because I'm going live at the same time, so it's okay. It's just while I set this up.
Oh, okay. Where did I grow up?
Yeah.
Oh, I am Palmy born and bred, and I'm still here.
How's the is there a big Pacific Island group there? Like a community?
It's growing now.
Oh yeah.
But from when I was a kid back in the 90s, we're quite small in comparison to the white Māori community.
Yeah.
But definitely after the 2000s, we've really diversified around here.
Yeah. Cool. Sorry, this is always I wish I could do this before we start the podcast, but I can't. I have to wait. So that's okay. Cool.
It's all good. You do what you need to do.
Cool. We are live. Awesome. Okay. All right. Talofa lava, everyone. Oh, we're going to start now. All right. Talofa lava, everyone. I am so excited. We're finally doing this. Unfortunately, we can't do it in person like we planned to, like months ago. But I'm excited that we have technology. I'm thankful for that. And I have our Pacifica budgeting queen on the podcast, and I'm excited for this. I found Tori on Instagram through my work colleagues, and I was like, oh, I need to get her on. Oh my gosh. So I'm excited for this. So thank you so much for making the time. I know you're a busy essential worker, but you've made the time to be on the podcast, which I really appreciate. And I hope those of you who are going to tune in really enjoy it as well. Take notes if you can, because this is going to be a good one. So yeah, before we begin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you for having me. So like you said, my name is Tori. You probably know me if you follow me on the gram. I'm known as Tori. In real life, my name is Victoria Tongatu'a. I am a full-time working mum of two, and I'm actually Samoan. So though I have a Tongan last name, obviously through marriage, my husband is a Tongan, and we reside in Palmerston North. So if you don't know where that is 2 hours north from Wellington, from the capital. Yeah. And yeah, I guess I've lived in Palmy my whole life, come from very humble beginnings, just like most Pacific Island people. My parents raised my brother and I here in Palmy, and when I was about 13, they became pastors, so I'm also a pastor's daughter. So there's lots of different layers to this life of mine, and I guess where I landed with the whole budgeting financial journey space, I started using Instagram initially as an accountability journal for fitness. So you will find that if you follow me, I do mix it up a bit between finances and fitness as a kind of like the two dominant themes of my page. And yeah, initially that's what my gram was for, and then just unintentionally a couple of years ago I started documenting my budgeting journey that my husband and I started on back in 2018, and that's how Hi Tori came about. So that's pretty much what I've run with since.
Yeah, speaking of the gram, I love your page so much, and what I admire most about it is you waking up early in the morning, training in your garage, and like I saw your before and after photo. I think I took a screenshot or I saved it, and I was just like, oh, goals. It's just I mean, going to the gym is bad enough, but actually getting up and working out in your own backyard or in your own garage, that's quite motivating. Talk to us about that. What motivates you to get up every morning, to do your garage workouts, to go for a run? Because it's honestly really inspiring.
Oh gosh, I think once you've made it part of your lifestyle, it's just, you're just wired that way. And I think when I initially started my journey back in 2014, yep, 2014 was when I started. The Fit Life of Tori was what High Tori was back in the day. And I guess when you see what you're capable of, what you achieve with your fitness, you continue to challenge yourself. And I think I've just gotten to the point now where losing the weight was easy. It was, well, the easy part. It's the maintenance of it and actually embedding that in your daily lifestyle that's the trickiest. And a lot of it comes from your mindset. And so it's been years of, you know, getting into that space, and now it's just a part of me. And now I find that I need that time to myself, to invest in myself every day. And that's kind of where the motivation stems from. Like, I try, some days I'm like, I just want to sleep in, I'm not going to do it, but I already know the implications that will have on the rest of my day. That if I was to take a day off just because I didn't feel like it, mentally, and just the way it will weigh me down and my productivity throughout the day, those kinds of things. So with lockdown, that's kind of where it was at with me. Like, my mindset was already still there from going to the gym every morning before work. That's just my routine. I'm very much a routine person. And then when the world stopped, it was kind of like, well, my body and my mind still wants to get up and do something. And so I just had, you know, limited resources in my garage. And I was like, well, actually, I'm used to just moving my body. Let's just do it in the garage. So that's where that stemmed from. And the running, though, that's a whole different story. And I think that's just another challenge that I've posed to myself. And me and my friend were like, okay, we've been doing this fitness thing for a while now. It's getting a bit old. What should we do next? And she suggested that we start training for a half marathon.
Nice.
And so we're planning to do that in August if all goes well. And that doesn't get cancelled. And so the running thing is very much a mental journey for me. Like, I've never been a runner ever. Even when I was, you know, physically lean, I couldn't run for 5 minutes to save myself. So now to be able to see that it's actually very much a mental journey, that different element of fitness is really exciting for me, because it really does require you to just get into the zone of you can push your body if you think that you can. And so I guess that, you know, that filters into strength training as well. So that's where all the motivation comes from, and just, you know, wanting to be a better wife and a better mum each day to my family, and investing in myself allows me to do that.
I love that. And it's like, I think for lazy people like me, we're always looking for like a secret key. You know, we're like, what's the magic? What's the secret? What is it? But it's just hard work. It's just wanting better for yourself. And that's what I'm hearing from your answer. And I think I don't need to write that down. I already know that. I just brush it off because I'm lazy. But
oh, it's hard. It takes a lot of practice.
Hard work. I can see that it's all hard work. I mean, were you into any sports growing up? Like, did you play sports as a teenager, as a child?
About intermediate. I wasn't sporty as a kid. Once I hit intermediate and I just, you know, grew, I got into netball and volleyball. So those are pretty much the two sports that I ran with. And even now I still play netball, indoor netball, and outdoors, to keep myself fit, although the knees are not quite the same. But yeah.
I don't know if you've been out to a party. I haven't been to a party since New Year's, when I was over in Fiji. But I remember after a night of dancing, oh, my knees. And I wasn't even dropping it low or anything. I was just dancing normal. And I was like, bro.
Just being on your feet.
I was literally just like, listen, in my
not
knees.
the same anymore.
But yeah, it's just not the same. Like, even by 10 p.m. I'm tired. Like, that's how you know you're getting old. But that's also,
yeah.
Talk to us about your upbringing. Yeah, talk to us about your upbringing. What was life like for you growing up?
So like I was saying, I think a lot of Pacific Islanders can relate to this. Like my upbringing is probably no different to a lot of people. You have your parents who migrate over from New Zealand in the 70s and 80s, and they're trying to establish their own lives here in New Zealand, as well as supporting the family back home. And so my household was very much like that. Like I grew up in a social housing property. My parents were factory workers and, working really hard labor jobs. And so with just my brother and I in the household with our parents, it's not like we went without anything. Like we always had what we needed. We never missed opportunities as such, coming from a Pacific Island family, but you could, I guess the difference was you could see the stress on our parents and where their priorities were at with wanting to support the church, support the family back home, and put food on the table for us kids. And so growing up, for me, I think the biggest impact that had on me was, I guess, the feeling of guilt as a child or as a young person, with the extra expenses that come with schooling or trips and camps and all of those things. Like the older I got, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, should I give this permission slip to my mom and dad?
Like camp,
it's just an extra cost for them.
Yeah.
Those skills.
Yeah, like it's like 120.
I really needed these sports feeds.
Yeah. Or even if
so I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah. Like even if I remember needing new clothes because we were house colors. Do you remember like house colors in high school?
Yeah.
And like I'd need like a new yellow t-shirt, but I'm like too far aku, like I don't want to tell my family about it because I'm like, oh, can we afford it? Like
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so very much the same as me, like just wanting to save all those extra costs for my parents because I already knew how much they had to be across already and what was priority for them, and not wanting to add to that burden. So my upbringing was good though, like in terms of financial constraints. I had what I needed, and they always tried their best to make sure that I never went without. So it was good.
Cool. Were you given pocket money or allowance as a child?
Oh my gosh. No. Literally the first time I had an allowance was when I started budgeting.
Yeah. I don't know why I asked that question. Right, I'm listening to your story. I was like, should I even ask that question?
No, okay. My parents are very traditional, doing chores is just part of living in their house. You had to work for any money that you got. So whether that was fruit and veggie picking, I did that too growing up. I worked at the nurseries with my mum during the holidays, and that was the only time I saw money. Because how you grew up in Palmy, I grew up in Christchurch, and the Pasifika community over there was like very, very small back in the day. And I remember kids, Palangi kids that I'd go to school with would talk about doing chores and getting allowance and pocket money for doing chores. And I'm like, what? Like I could not relate to that. No, not at all.
I just have a random question, just a side question. And you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but do you give your children allowance or pocket money for doing chores or just for being alive?
Well, you know what? I thought about it, and no, I don't. And I have seen, the concepts of getting them into, like doing like jars of money to teach them how to save and things. And that's part of, I think Barefoot Investor does that. I thought about it, and I tried it with my daughter about a year ago, and it didn't really go according to plan. So what I do instead is I factor it into my budget. So they have their own allowance as such that if anything comes up that they need, it comes out of their money as such that I put away for them. Until I guess they get to an age, like my daughter, she's 7 this year. So I think once she's about, 8 and has a more of an understanding of money, then I might let her take over that. But for now, it's part of the budget. So I do put money aside for them.
That's so awesome. My dad did that for me. Like I remember growing up, I always had a bank book from ANZ, and he would put $20 a week into my bank book. And whenever I'd need anything for school or like anything, I didn't know about it until I was in high school, and until I got to high school, and I was carrying around this bank book, and Yeah, but anyway. But so did your
Yes,
parents?
very similar, very similar.
Yeah.
I do that with my kids.
Yeah. So did your parents talk to you about financial literacy growing up, or did they ever have conversations with you about money?
Now, in a sense, they did talk to me about finances, but for them, being so traditional and then eventually becoming pastors, um, when it came to finances, for them, it was important that I honored God with my finances. Like that was like key for them, that I understood that and that they embedded that into me from a young age. As soon as I was working, I knew about tithing and things like that and the importance of it. So that element of finances, they really taught me a lot about that. And I carry that into my adult life. But and providing for your family, the importance of making sure that you provide for your family, that you don't go without, you make sure that, they are covered. But outside of that, like the downside of what I did pick up from my parents was the normality of debt. And I find that, and especially once I started my budgeting journey, how normal that is in the Pacific community, that it's seen as an aid, not a burden. And as long as you can meet repayments, it's fine to continue borrowing. And that's a mindset that I've really, it's really switched in my mind ever since I embarked on this financial journey, that you don't need to be tied down borrowing from a bank or from people and paying interest, when you can actually set your life up to be able to pay things out of your own pocket. And so those were the key things that I kind of picked up from my parents. Mostly though, the positive would be the tithing side of things, and just being faithful to God and to your family and providing for your family.
It's interesting. It's interesting you asked that. I mean, you mentioned that because I want to ask something. Knowing what you know now about financial literacy, do you ever try and advise your parent? Or I don't know if I wouldn't be brave enough to do it, but do you ever try and advise your parents about money?
Last year on the gram, I did share it briefly. I was having breakfast with my parents and I was telling my dad all about this. But this budgeting spreadsheet that I made, this was 1.0. It's really, really easy, Dad. You just got to let me do your finances for you. And he was actually keen. He was like, okay, yep, like explaining the concept of it to him. I think to him it meant it was achievable for him. I was like, look, you can just knock out all your debts if you do it this way, like trying to give him a mini crash course. And he was keen. And so I've been trying, still trying to pursue that, slowly, like let him do it. But it's very, very hard to undo old habits, old mindsets, especially while my parents in their, old age now. They're just stuck in their ways, and it's very hard to get them to see that there is a point to being free from debt. But yeah,
what can you do? You can only do so much. You have to be your scutty and really just listen, even if you don't agree. And that just for those of you who are tuning in, or for those of you who will listen later, and you're not Samoan, well, it's very normal in Samoan families to just do what the parents say and to not try and change.
And a lot of it was like, if we do it this way, if it's doing what you're saying about putting all our extra money onto debts and things, what about all the Fallibilities that might pop up? And that's their thinking, that having all that extra money is good, because like 5 things could pop up in one day for them. So it is hard.
Just on that topic, how do you, having this new financial mindset, how do you cater towards family fallibilities and family functions?
I guess it's a lot easier when you know what's coming up. So like set occasions, like kids' birthdays, the family weddings, it's much easier there to factor it into your budget. So once we get to talking about the ZBB, like it's easy to project what your costs are going to be, so you know where to allocate your money to. So for example, I have a gifts sinking fund, or a miscellaneous expenses account, where I can put more into, because I know that I've got 2 weddings this month, that kind of thing. But it's the last minute things that, if your parents are needing help because someone back home has passed away, or mostly the funeral side of things, we don't know things like that are going to happen. those are harder to plan for. But I guess it almost evens out when you're already putting money away for those days.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I've managed it. I always have this miscellaneous expenses fund for whatever could happen, like Fallibilities. So it's worked so far.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see that. You got your whole little fan base that follow your work, which is amazing. I follow it as well. Did you work as a teenager? And if so, what did that teach you about money?
I did have a casual job throughout my schooling, but just a couple of days. And, you know, the rate back then meant that whatever you got was just, you know, extra money for lunch. So wouldn't say I necessarily learnt much about money then, but I did start working from a very young age, full-time. So my current employer, I'm still with them, and I started with them when I was 17 years old. So going straight into a full-time permanent job from that age, that was what, 12 years ago now. I did learn a lot about money, because then once you started earning money, especially when you're living at home, you know, you have to start paying your way. And so learning about that, having to pay board and contribute. So that was very new to me. But then also learning to save, because you were already seen now as earning and having to contribute, that then knowing that you had money, you had to be ready for whatever else could pop up. And then being young, you know, you have your wants and things, so then you start putting away for whatever it is that you need now that you're a working young person. So it did teach me a little bit about money, but not to the extent that I know now. So it was a bit of a journey to get to this point.
Yeah, I love that. Speaking of journey, talk to us about how you started budgeting with your immediate family, so your husband and your children. What was that process like? What was the conversation like? And were your kids like, how are we poor now? Like, I remember when my mum said to me that she was seeing a budget, like, this was years and years and years ago, I automatically assumed, oh my gosh, are we poor? Like, what's going on? So what that process.
It's so funny that you say that. Because honestly, my whole life, I always thought budgeting was for people who couldn't afford things. that was my mindset of it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, you're on a budget, that means you can't, you know, make ends meet. But no, my life completely changed when it actually all started with one of my best friends. Her name is Kaja, and if she watches this, I'm shouting her out right now. She comes to work one day and tells me all about this Dave Ramsey that she'd been watching all weekend. And I was just like, oh yeah. I was more mocking her because she had turned up to work that day with printer paper. She'd got some printer paper from printer and folded them up, stapled the sides, and said, oh, these are my cash envelopes. And I was just mocking her, like, what is that? So I just put my money in there. It's all part of this Dave Ramsey plan. And I thought nothing of it. I was just like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then I went home that night and I actually watched them on YouTube. Yeah. And then I was that changes guy who jumped on the bandwagon. I was like, oh my gosh, like, that was amazing.
He is so ruthless, eh? He's quite ruthless. Yeah. Like, he tells it. There's no sugarcoating with Dave Ramsey. I listen to his podcast. I watch him on YouTube as well. And he's if you're going to spend like an idiot, you're an idiot. It's like, he's not airy-fairy with his message, which I like.
And what really got me about his plan is the fact that there was only 7 steps. You know how some things are really complicated and you're like, oh, that's just too far up my reach. I can't do that.
Yeah. I can't be bothered.
Yeah, I can't be bothered. It's too much effort. But this one is like 7 steps. And I was like looking at the steps. Like, oh yeah, I think do that. So that night when I went and just basically binge watched him, I was like, you know what? I really think that if I can do these steps with my family, I'll be financially free, because that's the last step, you know, financially free to be able to give. So then the next day I went back to work and I said to my friend, you know what, I'm going to do this with you and I'll go get us some better paper so we can make some cash envelopes. And from there, the rest is history. And that's kind of where I fell in love with cash envelopes, because, you know, finding out how pretty you can make them and how useful they can be. But that's where it all started. And my husband, he is very chill. Like, he's just like, whatever you want to do, we'll do it. So a lot of the Dave Ramsey talks about needing to be on the same page. Like, you both need to be in it if you're in a relationship for this to work. You can't have one person fully on this budgeting journey and the other person still spending up large. So my husband doesn't really spend much money. So he was like, if this is what you want us to do, you just do it and I'll support it. And so that, you know, that really made it easier for our family to start this whole journey. And yeah, we started with baby step one, you know, the putting together of your $1,000 emergency fund, and being able to tick that off and know that there was only 6 steps left. I was like, oh my gosh, you can do this. And then from there, like, your mindset just slowly starts to change, that you start to think, actually, I don't want to use my money to spend immediately on things that I'm probably not going to use next week. I would rather see this through and start investing my money, putting my money towards where we want to be in the long term.
Amen.
And so that mindset was a gradual process. Like, it wasn't like as soon as I ticked off baby step one that I was like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing. It was definitely over the last 24 months kind of thing, like just growing into it. But zero-based budgeting is where it's really started for us. Like, seeing that we were able to do the first step, I was like, well, okay, if we want to progress through these steps of this plan, we really need to know where our money's going. And so that's where zero-based budgeting and ZBB with Tori kind of came from.
I love that, and we're going to talk about that really soon. But just listening to your story, and I'm all about connectedness. I love that. There's so many fake, like, I think in this day and age, there's so many Facebook friends, so many followers, but to actually have real friendships is something that I find quite heartwarming. So to listen to you and your friend come together and do cash envelopes together, like, was it, I don't know, was that like quite fun for you to go to work and be like, oh my gosh, I got a new cash envelope? Or was it quite, because I know that was one of my work colleagues.
No, honestly, yeah, I was like,
yeah.
I was like, bro, I got us some paper, like, I got us the laminator, like, let's do this.
Were you using work resources?
Use of resources.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, good use of work resources. Thank you, MSD. Yeah, so no, it's that just that buzz of being able to do something nice, because, you know, her paper cash envelopes, I was just like, those aren't going to cut it. So being able to do that together was like the start of the motivation. And my friend, she's very much introverted, and so she wasn't really about sharing this journey publicly.
Yeah.
So when I started to share it more on the gram, and I was like, you know, I know that you're the one who introduced me to all this, and I'm just sharing my journey. Like, is that okay? She's like, oh no, you know, you do you, because you already share like fitness and everything on your gram. Like, go for gold. And so she's really grown with me too, and we are still sharing our budgeting wins and things every now and then. So it's been Kaja. Her name?
Kaja. Shout out to Kaja.
Yes.
But we all need good mates. I mean, like, it's so important to have a really good mate to do things with. Like, I've got a cheerleader. My best friend's like my cheerleader. Any good thing I get, or any good thing that I have, I like send it straight to her, and I'm like, oh, you know, and we really celebrate that together.
You need those people in your life.
Yeah, man. So for those of you who are listening, if you don't have a supportive community, really try and pray for it, or, you know, get out there and find people to, just can't do it alone. So talk to us about cash envelopes. We've already talked about that just briefly, but talk to us about how can we get started? How can we get started on cash envelopes? What do they look like? How do you get creative with it?
Okay, so let me just grab this. So I don't know, with the world changing now, you know, with COVID and things, and how we've moved into this whole cashless society almost. I'm not too sure, you know, how much longer people will be keen to use cash envelopes. So, but for me, they still work, and as long as you can use cash in some places, they'll be useful. But cash envelopes, if you've never seen them before, if you've tuned into this for the first time.
Have you got one?
Here's my cash envelopes. So like I was saying, the excitement of making these with a friend, like, that's a great place to start. Like, even if you're not even in a budgeting mindset, just making these.
Hold it up and wave it about. Be proud of that.
And it's they're very easy. And every time I whip them out to people who I start talking to them about these cash envelopes, they're just like, wow, like, even just the look of them and the idea of them is quite motivating. And so how to get about making them, like, it's really up to you. People can do it however they want. This is just literally cardstock from Kmart. Yeah, The laminating pouches are from work. But the cardstock's from Kmart, and yeah, you literally just fold it. You can laminate it, you don't have to. Just so that way I know which one is for what expense, and they almost just act like accounts. So I did say on the gram a week ago, I think now, if people were interested in electronic budgeting. And so that's something I'm looking to get onto my my page, because I know a lot of people are starting to get a bit paranoid about using cash. So what I've kind of moved into as well with my own budgeting is using online envelopes. So you can have multiple accounts online and managing it like you would cash envelopes, but in your
I don't think it's ever gonna work.
But these are just and more fun.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever gonna work, because it's just having, or not, it's never gonna work for me. Like having your money in different accounts that you can easily just transfer when you're at the mall with your friend. It's like, oh no, I won't buy anything. You see, you have to transfer a lot. And then,
and that's the danger. So
that's it. So get it, cash envelopes.
Cash envelopes that teaches you, it teaches you self-control, because you can't do that when you're at the mall with your friend, because you're like, actually, I've only got $20.
Exactly.
So
I love that
you go outside of that.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, because it's a real issue. And like for me, I put my cash envelopes in my Bible, like, because when I bought my Bible, it came in a box, and so I put the envelopes inside the box. I haven't opened it in a while, but I will one day.
I also found though that as long as the people that you hang around with know that you're on a budget and know that you do cash envelopes, there's that that shame that people usually feel, that if you're going out with people that you spend money that you don't actually have, and they're not going to see because you're just swiping. But I found that when my friends and everyone knew that I was doing cash envelopes, I was very open about my budget. I'll be like, okay, if we're going out for lunch today, I've only got $15 left, so let's go somewhere cheap, and they're cool with it. Okay, yeah, sweet. So yeah, it actually teaches you to be honest as well.
And I respect that. If my friend said that to me, I'll respect it so much. I'll be like, no, I'll shut up. And like, do they shout you?
Absolutely. Do they what? Sorry?
Do they shout you?
Oh, sometimes it does. They're like, oh no, I got you. Even though you're like, oh, are you sure?
Like, oh, okay.
Because you know budget life. Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Those kuluku ones. You got all the money, but you're like, oh, okay. No, I love that. It's so cool. Just a question for some of our mamas, like, my colleagues, they're obsessed with you. This is a question I got from them. They said, how can we get our kids involved with shopping? What advice would you give to a busy mum with shopping? How can we get our kids involved with shopping, budgeting shopping? I think it's because their kids are those kids. Like, can we have that? Can we have that? Can we have that? I think.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the way I get my kids involved in the budgeting and things like that is like in the stock taking of things. So because they know that I'm always going to write a grocery list of things that we need, and not so that we go into the grocery store prepared for what we need. So getting them involved in that could also help, because they also feel like if they're looking through the pantry and the fridge, tell me what it is that we're missing or what's running out. Getting them involved in that, so that when we go to the grocery store, they know exactly what we need, and then there's less of the maybe we need this, this, and this. You can also get them involved in looking at prices of things. Like if you're wanting to teach your child about the finance side of things, depending on how old they are, you could get them looking at, because brands, you're pretty much paying for brands when you're going to the store. And so just teaching them to look for, the specials and things like that. Because really that's what you're wanting, to save as much money as you can when you're going for your groceries. But it depends on what shopping it is that you're wanting to do. And you can find ways of getting your kids involved, whether it's putting the list together or making sure that they have some kind of a say.
Yeah. Or just go to the clearance shop.
Yeah.
Well, look at me, I
Juice
don't
is
even have
there.
kids. I don't even have kids, and I might just go to
Obviously, my kids aren't really hands-on like that. So for them just to be involved in the grocery list, like even just managing, like, okay, have we got in this? Like they tell me what we need because we've already, as a family, put that grocery list together from stock taking what we already have.
Yeah, that's leadership skills right there for a kid. Giving them that responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Giving them that responsibility, and I love that. That's so cool.
And if you're on cash envelopes, you can also get them, in charge of the envelope. That might make them feel like, they're in control.
I couldn't imagine being in charge of a cash envelope like growing up.
Their responsibility is too much.
Yeah. I'll grab a cash. I'll just pay myself. What advice? Here's another question I got from.
Get to the checkout, like,
Another question that I got from from one of my work colleagues. What advice would you give to a busy mum who is struggling to organise her bills, automatic payments, and school fees? I think she's going through that right now.
Yeah, that's tough, eh? Especially when life is just so crazy, like you feel like you can't catch a break, so you're always on the back foot. But one of the things that will really help, regardless of how busy you get, is actually putting away some time to plan and prioritize, because you're never going to get a handle on what your priorities are if you don't have that initial planning session with yourself and actually looking at your whole financial picture of, okay, this is the reality of what I'm dealing with, and then going from there. If you don't do that, it's not going to work, or you're always going to run into challenges because you haven't done that initial planning and prioritization session. So I would strongly recommend that that's where everyone starts. Whether you're a busy mum or not, it's always coming down to that. What are my goals? What am I wanting to get out of this? And then from there you can figure out what your priorities are and where your money is going to go. Because you'll find that from investing, it might take a few hours, or maybe even a whole weekend of doing that. But once you have that and then put in place the budgeting, which I think we're going to talk about next, maybe the zero-based budgeting, it kind of just goes on autopilot after that. Like it takes care of itself because you've already put in that groundwork with planning and prioritizing where your money's going to go. So that would be my key encouragement and advice to anybody out there who's struggling to make everything work.
Love that. Thank you. Thanks for answering that. That's perfect. And even though I'm not a busy mum, not a mum at all yet, but I'm definitely going to try that. That actually made a lot of sense. So once it's all laid out for you, then you kind of it just becomes a habit. Cool. Perfect. 29 years old and I still haven't done it.
It's like an acceptance thing. Like you look at your situation, you're like, wow, like it's quite confronting too. So I think that's also important, that you actually acknowledge where you've gotten to with your spending, and then that will also help you to be, okay, well, I need to change this, or I don't want to continue this way. Yeah, so definitely invest in that, I'd say.
So cool. Talk now, the $1 million spreadsheet. Talk to us about the spreadsheet you have available on your Instagram page, and why are you not charging people for it?
You know what? People have asked me that, and it just doesn't feel right to me. Like, I started my journey 2 years ago and I knew nothing. I'm not a financial expert. I haven't studied this stuff. It is literally everything that I've learned from reading books, watching, YouTube clips, listening to podcasts and things. So it's all knowledge that I have taken from places, molded it into something that makes sense to me, and have just shared that with whoever has wanted to listen. And so I guess I wasn't ready, or I didn't really prep myself for the uptake. Like, I didn't think people would actually sink their teeth into what I had to say. I was just like, oh, this is just my space and I'm just going to share it. So it's been pretty overwhelming to see who has jumped on board with zero-based budgeting and ZBB and having to keep up with that. But then for me, like, it's priceless being able to help someone. Like, I get so much satisfaction out of that. My my occupation is that I, train and upskill people and coach and develop them and things. And so that's why on the gram, you'll find that I'm always doing little tutorials almost of talking people through things, just because I like to impart knowledge. And so for me, that's where the spend is for me. Like I don't want monetary, I don't want to be paid for something that I have just come up with myself from learning. I'd rather give it out and people take it, and then whatever has come as a result of that for their own personal experiences, that is more rewarding for me.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's humbling, and you are definitely doing God's work. I love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Has your relationship with money changed since you started budgeting?
Oh, absolutely. I've always been, good with meeting my expenses and things like that. Was no problem, meeting debt repayments and things. But now I would say that I am definitely living below my means. Like, to me, I am more in the mindset of just make sure whatever I need and my family needs to survive is paid for. And then everything that's left over is money that we can use for our future. Rewind to pre-budgeting, Tori, it would have been, pay every debt we've got, make sure everything's covered. Whatever's left over is spending money. It's play money. Like, that's the main switch for me and my family. So my relationship with money now, I'm not so much so invested in it that I just want to spend and have all these things. It's very much just, I want to put my money somewhere where in the long term I can see that it has benefited my family. So that's the main switch. Like, I don't really buy stuff anymore. Like, I could probably tell you my last 5 spends because that's how rare it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what do you, when it's time to treat yourself, or when you've got extra money on you, what do? You just
See, I don't even know now. Like, for me, like, spending money on myself is like buying a coffee. So habits like that, like, I changed. Like, I don't need this coffee. I can just make one and not spend any money. That was a hard one because I was that guy that was buying coffee every day just because, that's just part of being an office. Yeah, working in an office, you have to have a
got a latte. I got a yeah, that's
just part of the package.
Yeah.
So I'm doing things like that. Like, I don't actually need this. And so now it's considered a treat. Like, there's a spend for me. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I've got my pocket money here, which a lot of the time just sits there and accumulates. So buying food, that's still a weakness of mine.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. That's like, I've been able to switch a lot of habits, but having the odd splurge on fast food is still something that, even me as a budgeting person, I still fail at that. But overall, I definitely have a much better relationship with money, and I'm less inclined to spend money on things that I want, because I'm more about, do I actually need this? Nah, I don't. Okay, cool. That money's going towards our goals.
Oh, love it. That is so humbling. Just how you mentioned fast food. Well, how has what's the McDonald's and KFC like over in your area?
As in, like, is it good?
Like, no.
Or are they crazy?
Has it been crazy?
Oh, yeah.
Auckland
has been mental. Just, like, I can't even believe how many people have just lined up all the way down, because our streets here in Palmy are just, like, straight. And, there've been queues. So my first fast food since level 3 was just fish and chips, because I was like, you know what, I'm not going to go into battle with those McDonald's, KFC lines. I just go to my local.
Yeah, it is not even that.
Fish and chips.
I couldn't even imagine spending that much time. Like, what would I do in 2 hours in the car? Like, what do you do? Like, anyway. So yeah, that's cool.
Each to their own.
But I just wanted to mention one thing with you talking about your spending, your relationship with money, how it's changed, how you're not buying things that you want, you're buying things you need. That's interesting, because I just finished reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. And
Oh yes, I read that too.
yeah, and how he mentions how people spend with their emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Wow.
just thought that was really interesting.
Did you enjoy that book?
Yeah, I did. I didn't even I didn't even read it. I listened to it on audiobooks, but it's the same thing. Um, yeah,
Same.
same. But yeah, no, I love that. I think those year-ass ones. Yeah, I read it. But I think that that's really important for any of you, anyone who's tuning in who hasn't listened or read that book. Definitely check it out. It's really good. What are some of the things that you're looking forward to when COVID-19's over?
Life for me didn't really stop with COVID-19 being an essential worker, and so for me things haven't really changed. But I am going to go into a store. Like, I'm not an online shopper, and especially like once you become like a full-on budgeter, you become more inclined of going into stores because you want to, examine the product that you're about to spend your money on and consider options and all of those things, which you can't do online. So I'm really struggling with that, and that's why I haven't spent, haven't done any of the online shopping and things at level 3, because it's just too hard. Like, I need to go into store. So I am looking forward to that. Next Sunday is my 30th, and I was meant to be jumping on a plane and going to Bali to celebrate, which is obviously not happening. So post COVID-19, I guess I'm looking forward to just getting away with my family now. Like, this whole situation has, I guess, had a lot of people refocusing on what's important. And so, getting away for such a big milestone for me was, a couple of months ago, like that was like the highlight of my year. But now I just would love to get away just outside of Palmy with my kids and my husband, and just maybe it's time to explore our backyard a little bit and see what else New Zealand has to offer. So I'm looking forward to that, and hoping that we get to do a little bit of a family trip. Not too much, really. Like, I don't really get up to much other than trying to improve my house. So maybe some house renovations are on the cards.
Oh yeah.
And a nice dinner. A nice dinner or brunch would be great. So, those simple things are pretty much what I'm looking forward to. And of course, family and friends, seeing them again and being able to connect again.
Yeah, the simple
in person.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm learning so much, and I'm just listening to your story and listening to and engaging with you in this podcast. I just think that I'm just thinking about all the things that I tell myself I need, but no, deep down I don't really need. Because I was just talking about this morning. Like, I'm the type of person that says, well, I'll go to the gym when I get some Beats headphones, or I'll go for a run when I get some good shoes. I'm those ones. And it never happens. I've got all the equipment in the world, all the resources, and I still fat. So I try.
Honestly, it's tough, eh? Like, our mindsets, and we're our own little enemies in our mind. But just pushing past that and actually just pressing go and start. Like, once you get started, you're away. So if you can conquer that, I think you'll be able to achieve. This girl.
It's so cool. I love it.
But I still do that too. Like, I'm like, oh, I need some remotivation. I need to motivate myself again. I need some more actives. That buzz. I still feel that at times. Like, I need something to keep me motivated. I need some new shoes because now I'm a runner. I need to go buy some shoes.
Now I run marathons.
Yeah, okay. I still do that.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything I should
still think that way.
Yeah. Was there anything I should like to add?
Anything I want to add? Well, probably just the zero-based budgeting tools that I've got. So I know that the link in my bio on Instagram has my latest spreadsheet, which, if you're brand new to this whole thing, might be a bit overwhelming. But if you have been with me since the initial spreadsheet, the DBB with Tori 1.0, that's a lot simpler. And so I would just encourage anyone who's new to this to hit me up if you're keen, because I still give out 1.0, which is a good starting point to understanding, prioritizing your expenses and starting with a simple format and being going into the 2.0 that's available on my Instagram. So that's all I wanted to chuck on there. And I do have like little videos and things about how to use those particular spreadsheets in my highlights and on my IGTV. But my Instagram is a bit bare because it's undergoing some construction. It's under construction because I need to update my content. So yeah, that stuff is still there though, and that's all I wanted to add.
I love that, and I'm looking forward to that content. I follow you closely every morning. Hi, Tori. Oh my gosh, she's exercising. Better get up. Yeah, I thank you so much. That brings us to the end of this podcast, but I hope it's not the last time that we ever talk. I hope to connect in person.
Yeah, absolutely.
To have a good laugh, because I feel like we can laugh together, but it's a bit delayed on Zoom. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting up in person. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, post COVID, hopefully we get to have that meeting in person. Yeah. I'll really like that.
All right, I'll shout you.
Oh, thanks, girl, because you know, because your vote's a bit low.
Come with your envelope. Thank you so much.
Love it. You're so welcome.
Yeah, this brings us to the end of the podcast, and yeah, we'll catch up on the gram.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.